Go. Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of August 31st, 2022, and welcome our visitors to the council chambers this evening. The City Council is conducting our weekly council meeting in a hybrid mode. This will allow us to reach members of our community who wish to participate via Zoom or those who wish to attend in person. It is our hope to continue this format to be as accessible as possible to our community. For those who wish to participate in a future meeting via Zoom, you will find the public comment registration form on the City of Everett website under the City Council department. Click on the register to provide a comment via Zoom link, and you'll come to a form that you must fill out completely if you wish to provide public comment at a future meeting. After your form is submitted, you'll receive an email confirmation with the Zoom link and the phone number to the meeting. Note that participants must submit the form at least 30 minutes prior to the meeting. Forms submitted after that time will not receive the Zoom link or phone number to speak, but may still participate the day of the meeting by coming in person to the council chambers. Please note that we do not allow comments on any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Fossey.
Excused.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Councilmember Schwab.
Here.
Councilmember Toohey.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
President Stonecipher.
Here. I'd like to ask Councilmember Ryan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
My
Please
pleasure.
stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Councilmember Schwab, will you please read the land acknowledgement this evening?
Yeah, I would love to. The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohooks people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, and they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. We have minutes of August 24th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Franklin.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. I have a couple things this evening, a proclamation. First, it's a proclamation for Puget Sound. So whereas Everett, Washington aspires to protect Puget Sound and its tributaries, which are the source of our community's well-being, health, economy, and quality of life, and whereas we acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohooks people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes, who have stewarded this land from time immemorial, and a healthy and vibrant Puget Sound defines our Northwest culture, as do the indigenous people's stories, our tribal treaty responsibilities, and our shared legacy for future generations. And the health of Puget Sound is declining, and creatures and plants, great and small, from our bullcap, forests, and salmon to our orcas and shellfish, are at risk from human impacts of stormwater runoff, loss of natural habitats, and a changing climate. And we all have the power to protect our Puget Sound treasure, work together to discover and take clean water actions through the Puget Sound Starts Here campaign. And whereas in the month of September, City of Everett will join with other governing bodies, organizations, and community groups to strengthen stewardship of our shared watershed and encourage all to take action to improve the health of Puget Sound. Now, therefore, I, Cassie Franklin, Mayor of the City of Everett, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2022 as Puget Sound Starts Here month, and I urge all our residents to support clean water and healthy habitat by joining us in this special observance and discover how to make a difference. And community members can learn more about ways you can protect the beautiful Puget Sound by visiting PugetSoundStartsHere.org. The website has all kinds of helpful information. So thank you for allowing us to read that and for joining us in that campaign. And then next, I have the honor of asking Chief Templeman to step forward so we can swear in a number of new officers tonight.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. And good evening. Good evening, Council President and council members. It's my honor tonight to be able to introduce to you 6 of our newest officers who've recently graduated from the Criminal Justice Training Commission. This group here represents our largest swearing-in class, if you will, before council, at least during the 10 years, 11 years that I've been deputy chief and chief. And so we're really excited about it. This will help with some of our staffing challenges here. Obviously, these officers will all still have several months to get through of training before they're going to be out on their own on the street. But as I mentioned a couple weeks ago in my briefing to you, there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of law enforcement in the state of Washington and making it an attractive profession for more officers like the ones we have here tonight who are of the highest caliber. So I am excited to be able to introduce them to you for swearing in, and I'm going to start with Tristan Buckley. Tristan was born in Spokane but grew up in the Tri-Cities area. He graduated from Hanford High School in 2015, where he played football. Tristan attended Eastern Washington University and studied biochemistry and African American studies. Before joining the Everett Police Department, Tristan worked for Amazon in Spokane while he was also going to school. Tristan decided to pursue a career in law enforcement so he could make a difference in someone else's life, even if it was only for a brief moment. When considering the various agencies, Tristan chose the Everett Police Department because of the possibilities a department our size could offer him to do different things over the course of his career. Tristan graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on August 10th, alongside 4 of our other officers who are being sworn in tonight. He's very excited for the opportunities that lie ahead of him here at EPD and starting this new chapter in his life here on the west side of the mountains. Thanks, Tristan. All right, next we have Ryan Easton. And Ryan was born in Irvine, California, but raised in Oahu, Hawaii. He graduated from Castle High School and earned his bachelor's degree in Chinese language and linguistics from the University of Hawaii at Manoa in 2014. Ryan is proficient in Mandarin Chinese. Ryan and his wife Grace moved from Hawaii to Washington State in 2018. Prior to joining the Everett Police Department, Ryan was a lead supervisory officer with the Transportation Security Administration, or the TSA, at SeaTac for nearly 5 years. He also worked in the customer service, retail, and hospitality and tourism industries while in Hawaii. Becoming a police officer was a lifelong dream for Ryan, and he is excited that EPD is where he will fulfill this goal. When choosing where to work, it was important to Ryan that he find a city and a department that emphasized the importance of diversity, and he feels that he's found that here in Everett. As he moves into field training, Ryan looks forward to that first instance where he can look back and say that he made a positive, life-changing impact on someone in our community, and I'm sure that'll happen very soon. Thanks, Ryan. Next, we have Deandre Gibbs. So Deandre was born in San Diego, California, but moved to Everett in 2000, as his father was stationed at Naval Station Everett. Deandre graduated from Mariner High School, where he was on the wrestling team. And after high school graduation, Deandre enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. During his 4 years in the Marine Corps, Deandre was deployed to Iraq and Japan. He was assigned as a combat engineer, where he worked on the construction of obstacles, employment of explosives, and search for improvised explosive devices. After his active duty service, Deandre came back to Everett and applied to be a police officer to continue his public service. The Everett Police Department was an easy choice, as he still had many personal connections to people in our community and feels who better to serve than those who you care about. Deandre is excited to begin his field training and start interacting with the Everett community to help those in need of police services. Thank you, Deandre. Next, we have Blake Johnson. Blake was raised in Burlington and graduated from Burlington Edison High School in 2014, where he played baseball. After high school, Blake attended college studying environmental conservation. Prior to being hired by the Everett Police Department, Blake worked for Skagit County Public Works, where he drove a dump truck and a snowplow and repaired guardrails and cut trees. Blake has always enjoyed problem solving and helping people, so he decided to switch gears and pursue a career in law enforcement. The Everett Police Department appealed to Blake because of the support we receive from our community, the family-like culture he felt here, and the opportunities that are available for career growth. Now back from the academy, Blake looks forward to getting to know the city better and interacting with our community members. Along with Blake, we also welcome his wife, Hannah, to the Everett Police Department family. Thanks, Blake. Next, we have Aliou Diouf. So Aliou was born and raised in the Gambia. He attended Cowley College in Arkansas City, Kansas, where he graduated in 2014. I see this 2014 as a number that is known to a lot of you. With an Associates of Arts degree in Computer Information Science. After college, Aliou moved to Everett and began working in the social services field with a focus on supporting adults with developmental disabilities. Additionally, he joined the United States Army Reserve in 2016. Aliou's decision to pursue law enforcement was heavily influenced by his culture, which emphasizes treating others with respect and dignity, and helping people regardless of their social status or other social labels. Everett was a natural choice for Aliou. It was the first place he called home after moving to the United States, and he fell in love with the city. We also have a large Gambian presence here in Everett, in the Everett area, and Aliou hopes he can motivate members in the community to pursue careers in law enforcement. Having completed the academy, Aliou now looks forward to what he calls the small things as he heads out into field training and interacting with residents and visitors, and the responsibility and sense of pride felt knowing that he is part of a team working to serve others. Thank you, Aliou. All right. Last, but certainly not least, we have Taylor Smith. So Taylor grew up in South Everett and graduated from Mariner High School. I was looking to see if it was in 2014, but no. 2016, okay. He went on to receive a Bachelor of Arts degree in Sociology with a minor in Communications from Western Washington University in 2020. Prior to joining the Everett Police Department, Taylor worked unarmed security for Northwest Security Services and Allied Universal. Taylor participated in the Everett Police Department's Junior Police Academy during his years at Explorer and was inspired to consider a career in law enforcement by one of our retired school resource officers, Mark Carter. When the time came for Taylor to pursue this goal and choose a department, he said that Everett was always his first choice and only fitting given his connection to the city and Mark's influences. Taylor graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on August 25th and received added recognition for successfully completing a scholarship enrichment challenge. Now back at the department, Taylor is eager to start making an impact in our community and in the lives, in other people's lives, particularly children. So council, I present to you Tristan Buckley, Ryan Easton, Deandre Gibbs, Blake Johnson, Aliou Diouf, and Taylor Smith for swearing in tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Do I have a motion to accept Tristan Buckley, Ryan Easton, Deandre Gibbs, Blake Johnson, Aliou Diouf, and Taylor Smith as the newest members of the Everett Police Department?
So moved to accept all of them.
Councilmember Schwab, second. Joyfully.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zerlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab?
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
President Stonecipher?
Yes. Now the clerk will administer the oath.
I was just so excited. Okay. Hopefully they can hear me. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. All right, I think we'll try this slowly. I, please state your name,
I, Deandre Gibbs,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am either a citizen of the United States
that I am either a citizen of the United States
or a lawful permanent resident,
or a lawful permanent resident,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Everett,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Everett,
and that I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully,
honestly,
honestly,
and impartially
and impartially
perform the duties of police officer
perform the duties of police officer
of the City of Everett
of the City of Everett
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
All right, just congratulations and no further comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to let families know that our meetings are taped, so you should be able to download a video of this off of our website if you would like to. Thank you. We will go down to, let's see, where am I? Here. Oh, Angie, do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening?
Hello, President Stonecipher. We have one written comment from Jay Patrick, which I've provided to council administration and to the clerk to be part of the record. I have two individuals here wishing to speak, and I would like to call upon Adrian Holbert. So Adrian, I just want to remind you that you have 3 minutes to speak. If you could please press the button to the right of you when you're ready to speak, and at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I will let you know when you have 30 seconds left. Actually, the mic just turned on for you, so.
Yep.
And if you could please state your name and your city for the record.
Adrian Holbert, Everett, Washington. Thank you, Mayor Franklin, City of Everett, council members, and anyone else that's here. I'm here to talk about the homeless, the pallet shelter that's going up towards our house, right by our houses. So thank you for letting me speak. I'll try and go fast. Let me introduce myself. I'm a single mother. I've raised 3 kids on my own. I was married when they were little. I was beaten for 8 years. There were no places to go back then, so I stayed home, After 8 years, he left, yay. And I worked my tush off, and I bought a little farmhouse to raise my kids in. I worked 3 jobs for several years just to keep them in food and clothes. My youngest son had a car accident in '95 and sustained a brain injury. I don't want to lose my place here. And sustained a brain injury. I eventually found a house on Elverson Boulevard, love that street. I put everything I had into that house, and then I lost it in foreclosure. I was about to be homeless, scary. I worked harder. I got my degree, my SRWA certification, my LPO, and eventually I bought a little house near Harborview Park. It was awful, but I've been working on it for 17 years, and now it's a cute little house. A little bit more to go. I want to address the Pallet Shelter you're planning on putting and building in the corner of Glenwood and Severs. I am totally against it. While I understand homelessness is a very complicated issue with many factors involved, there's no easy solutions. I know that. I do not feel this is the best location for this type of housing. While a 10 by 10 shack is better than sleeping on the streets, it's not a good solution. Women and children 4 to a 10 by 10 shed? No, this is degrading. And what about their husbands, their boyfriends, their exes? Restraining orders make it more dangerous for us and them. What about safety for them and for us? What about the 3 schools close by and the children walking to school and the ball field next door? This is not the best thought out solution. This area has no place for them to get their food, their medical, their social help. Are they going to come to my house and steal from me and my neighbors? If they're homeless, do they have cars to drive themselves to stores, medical appointments? Where are they going to go to the bathroom and shower? Where are they going to prepare meals? Are the taxpayers going to foot the bill for the sewer, the water, the kitchen, the bathroom? The permits and building of the sheds, is this going to be permanent? Will it grow? What about the trash? Do we have to pay for their trash too? Or will it look like all the other homeless camps?
30 seconds.
What? I have 3 more pages. Come on now. Da, 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 da. I'm concerned for the elderly and disabled. I have a son with a brain injury. Thank God he's very high functioning, but he's also lonely. And he doesn't see that people are conning him. He will see somebody that might be, I better stick with my script. If someone comes to him with ulterior motives, he may not see that and take them at their word. He may get hurt or robbed or worse. Who knows?
Thank you, Adrian. That's 3 minutes.
How much?
That's 3 minutes.
Well, then I'm coming back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for letting me speak.
Thank you. AJ, please come to the podium and begin by giving your name and city for the record. Please remember to limit your comments to 3 minutes, and I will remind you when you have 30 seconds left.
So, good button. AJ Matheson, Everett, Washington. What else did you need to know?
That was it. Thank you.
Okay. I thought I printed this in bigger letters, but I didn't. So I don't know how I'm going to beat that. That was awesome. But I'm also a resident and a neighbor, and the Stevers Ducey Pallet Home Development for homeless women and children, and they say that children means young adults up to 18 years old. And I know when I was 14, 15 through 18 years old, I wasn't always an angel. So anyway, the temporary status of this proposed shelter is it rarely stays temporary, these shelters. They always grow in size. Maybe today it's 20 homes. A year from now, maybe it's 30 homes. They don't stay neat and clean like the beautiful little pictures we see, which look so tidy. The women and children only shelter attracts ex-boyfriends, husbands, friends. Teens, okay, I did that. Don't be surprised to see more homeless vehicles being parked nearby. Homeowner property values drop. If you have a home, you know it drops. If I was looking for a new home and I saw a homeless shelter 2 blocks away, a half mile away, I'm not going to look at that home. Prostitution, drugs, theft all increase in neighborhoods and nearby businesses. Neighborhoods become less safe. There are the beautiful ball fields within walking distance, 2 beautiful parks, Harborview and Forest Parks. And these kids and these people aren't going to stay in these little shacks. They're going to find somewhere else to go. They're not going to sit there in their little park all the time. They're going to find our parks. And that means we're less safe. In the end, what happens is the problems that you're trying to fix, you're transferring those problems to all the shared neighbors that they move into. Their problems are going to become our problems. It basically makes a new problem. It's bigger and affects people who have to live with them in their backyards. Finally, I appreciate what you're trying to do, and it's great. And there's that hotel that on the by Everett Mall that you're putting it there. Why couldn't you also put this shelter there? There's a big parking lot there. A lot of these people don't have cars, but they could fit these little 10 by 10 homes there. Basically, I don't want it in my backyard, and I bet not one of you would want it in your backyards either. So that's it. No great orator, but that's what's on my mind. Thank you. I still have maybe a minute left.
Thank you, AJ.
Thank you.
President Stonecipher, I have one person waiting to speak on item 10 when we get to that on the agenda via Zoom.
Very good, thank you. We will move on to council comments and liaison reports, starting with Councilmember Zarlingo.
Thank you. As a resident of the Silver Lake neighborhood, I've paid some special attention to that area, including the parks and public access there. And I'm happy to see that the city and Historic Everett are working to preserve a bit of the historic fabric in there, the Bothany House that you sometimes see at the south edge of Thornton Sullivan Park. Sadly, the house itself can't be saved, but the city department and the Historic Everett group are working to identify the historic architectural fabric of that and to save that for a use maybe as part of the trail. So I'm happy to see, I think that's a neat thing about Everett. We both are looking to the future and honoring and celebrating our past in that area. That's by far the oldest house in that area, and the pieces of it that they're trying to save date back in part to the old YMCA more than a century ago in Everett. So happy to see that kind of activity going on. One other neighborhood note, I'd like to note the recent passing of a neighborhood leader, a longtime community member, Dorothy Vantiventer. Actually, rather than noting her passing, I'd like to celebrate her contributions to the neighborhood and to the city. She started the Silver Lake Action Committee in the 1980s with Peggy Claflin, Pam and Tom Lux, and a couple of others. That group's become the Silver Lake Neighborhood Association, part of Everett's Office of Neighborhoods. Dorothy had really extensive knowledge of the neighborhood, the city's codes and regulations, practical development considerations. She had good working relationships with many of the people involved over many years. She accomplished a lot for our community over those years and never sought credit that I saw. Everett was a better place when she was here. It's a better place now because she was here. So thank you. Thank you to Dorothy.
Thank you, and Councilmember Buckley.
Hello, everybody. This morning, I was able to volunteer with the Salvation Army Back to School shopping event. Approximately 150 kids. I'm not really sure because I'm bad at numbers and I didn't get the actual number, but I'm gonna guess 150 kids were able to pick out and purchase clothes that they liked from Old Navy at the Everett Mall. During the event, I got to converse with officers Edmonds and Duncan, so they probably owe their people something, who also participated as chaperones. It was just a great event, being able to help a bunch of kids get some clothes for school. And the Alliance for Housing Affordability, we had a meeting recently, and the Common Cause Partner Campaign presented to us, and I sent all of my colleagues a video of a project they did in King County, which they're also going to be working on here in Snohomish County about the root causes of homelessness. And I am happy to also put that out there for anybody else who wants to know about the root causes of homelessness. So that's happening. Welcome to all the police officers who aren't here right now. I like to figure out some of the things that I've got in common with everyone. Maybe they were not going to hear this later, but whatever. I grew up in Irvine a little bit, and I've got a kid who graduated in 2013, so that was close. I live down in, got the Mariner and Explorer schools in my neighborhood. I believe in justice. And anyways, so welcome to all of our new law. And that was a really nice color palette, if you will. So good job. I know color is not everything, but it is something that we're going to, that's not sounding good. And then thank you to the speakers for the homelessness issue and the Seavers Ducey. That's also it's not in my district, but I do know the area. It's interesting. I think I have a lot to say about that, but I'm not going to say it all right now because that would just be too much. But I will say that it's a benefit for folks to have those
parks and amenities nearby. And I think it would probably certainly be better to live in not a shack, but one of these very, can't think of the word right now, but a nice pallet shelter. You've seen them, yes. All of our houses get dirty sometimes, and they get cleaned out. And people are already living in the parks, so I think it would be better for them to have a space to call home rather than sleeping in the parks, as I personally know. And, oh, here's one other thing. I will totally have people in my backyard, and I have recently. Tent, kid, autistic child, worked out for about a month. So I am down with yes in my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schwab.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank those who made public comments tonight. I would encourage you to participate in the upcoming public information opportunities and engagement that we're doing with the city. And please read through all the information. I appreciate your passion, but please make sure that you're up on all the latest program, because I think things will evolve a bit with that whole process. So thank you for your involvement in that. Also, thanks to the chief and the staff. I know our recruits aren't here, but what a great day it is. And so thank you for your staff for continuing work. And for the recruits, if they do see this, thank you for choosing Everett, and welcome to our family. I don't have any other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President Tui.
Yeah, I just want to thank Chief Templeman for his hard work on this very impressive recruitment class. It's great to see the diversity and all of the things that they bring to our community. It's just really exciting, so good job. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the commenters this evening and the folks that wrote in as well. I'd be happy to help with follow-up as well. There's a full site management plan that's in place. There was a presentation a couple of weeks ago that addressed some of the concerns about security and 24/7 site management, bathrooms, and other aspects of the space. I'd be happy to forward that or forward a link to the presentation to help with just answering some of the questions that were out there. Congratulations to our 6 new officers. A common thread that I heard during the bios today, and then ones from a couple of weeks ago from Deputy Chief Irving, was that Everett was an easy choice for them, and I couldn't agree anymore. So congrats to our new officers. And last but not least, happy 75th birthday to my dad.
Thank you. I don't have too many comments this evening. I just want to congratulate you, Chief, on 6 fine new officers, and was very glad to see that we are finding officers that will help reflect the composition of our community. I think that it makes their work a lot easier, just to know where they're coming from. And also fun to have some people that have ties to Everett, grew up in Everett and had other links here, so that's very fun. Do we have an administrative update this evening?
No administrative update tonight.
Thank you. And City Attorney Hall, what do you have for us?
There is no report from the legal department, and we are not requesting an executive session. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move to our consent agenda. We have 9 items. Do we hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Vogely so moves.
2 seconds.
We have a motion and a second for the 9 consent items. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. We have 3 public hearing items with no action to be taken tonight. And I'll read the agenda items one at a time and open the public hearing. Item number 10 is to conduct a public hearing for the Everett Transit 2022-2027 Transit Development Plan and the 2021 Annual Report. And I think we have a presentation. Yes.
Good evening, Melinda Adams, Everett Transit Transportation Services Manager. We got it? That's okay. There we go. Okay. This evening, I'm presenting to you our Transportation Development Plan from 2022 to 2027, as well as our 2021 Annual Report. The TDP is a state-mandated report, and information from the report is used by the legislature in their deliberations on the state of public transportation. It lists activities and accomplishments in the previous year and project plans for the following 6. Generally, it provides guidance for future work plans. Although there are budgetary elements, it is not a budget document. Tonight's presentation is a summary of the more detailed document in your packet and posted on Everett Transit's website. While the document is not a service plan, it foreshadows what future service plans may look like. Transit staff will be presenting a proposed service plan for 2023 on September 14th. The TDP was presented to the Transportation Advisory Committee on August 18th, 2022. This is a public hearing only and does not require council action. What's happening here? One on the right. Okay. So we begin with Everett Transit arrivals that we refer to as ETA. In 2021, our text messages received were at 16,837, which was a 38% decrease from 2020. Calls received were at 33,782, which were a 26% decrease from 2020. In 2021, our commute trip reduction program held several sessions and focused on improving individual worksite participation, approaching worksite challenges, provided COVID-19 updates, both federal and local, and distributed updates and information about local and regional transit impacts and infrastructure, biking infrastructure, and safe travel. Quarterly newsletters were provided with regional and federal regulation changes and environmental impact news. There, I got it back. Other activities in 2021 included our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, which was set for our DBE goals from 2021-23 at 2% based on projects projected during that time frame. We created a video available on our website to both explain and engage with potential DBEs and the process for certification. Our Title VI program included training that was attended by 2 program staff, 1 service scheduler, and 1 outreach coordinator. The training included both inclusive engagement, best practices, and understanding new or updated Federal Transit Administration reporting standards. In grants, we received $8.9 million in pandemic relief funding, which was used for transportation employees' salaries and benefits. Other projects in 2021 were the implementation of the new NG Orca, the completion of final design, and provided user training. The Orca system is now being implemented with our customer service staff, and training has taken place for all of our transit staff. And we continue with the rollout, going through a few pains here and there, but it's going well. For our facilities, we had preventive maintenance projects, including roof coating and arc flash assessment. And our report on 2021 fixed route operations. You'll see we have passenger trips that were at 761,882, which was a 4% decrease from 2020. Fixed route expenditures were at a 1.5% decrease from 2020, with a Swift share at approximately 1.9 million. Fixed route fuel consumption was 202,709, a 4.5% increase from 2020. Our paratransit operations reflect for passenger trips a 5% decrease from 2020. Paratransit expenditures were at an 18% decrease, and our fuel consumption an 8% decrease from 2020. Everett Station operations revenues were at $1 million with a 12% decrease from 2020. Expenditures at approximately $1.5 million, reflecting a 9.5% decrease. Everett Station continues to have a high cost of operation that has not been able to be recovered by rent alone. The budget actuals reflect that we had $37.6 million in total operating revenue. Total expenses ran at $26.8 million with a transfer to operations reserve of $5 million. Capital revenues were at $2.3 million and total expenditures at $2.6. Looking forward, we'll be focusing on the rejuvenation of our fleet. For the balance of the presentation, we'll be looking at the years 2022 through 2027. For fixed route, in 2022, we are introducing inductive charging into our system, allowing our electric buses to recharge quickly, stay on the road, reduce fuel cost, carbon footprint, and noise pollution. In 2023, we will see 10 Gillig all-electric buses placed into service, and the introduction of these electric buses into our daily operation will place our fleet at over 50% electric, and we've done so in just under 5 years. 2024 through 2026, ET will replace an additional 21 vehicles with electric buses, and by 2028, Everett Transit will have a fully electric fixed route system. Our paratransit vehicles over a 4-year span from 24 to 27, we will focus on the replacement of 26 vehicles. Everett Transit is watching the electrification of the paratransit fleets carefully and will likely use a pilot program to allow technology to progress at a stable level. We've been a real pioneer with our fixed route system, so we're anxious to see what they produce in the regular paratransit vehicles. We will continue to evaluate the feasibility of electrifying that fleet. Projects in service in 2022, we will continue to improve frequency on high ridership routes, implementation of our free youth transit pass for all youth 18 and under. This new fare allows Everett Transit to collect approximately $2 million annually and can be used towards its operating budget. As of tomorrow, our Orca lift fare will be reduced from $1.50 to $1. In 2023, we anticipate service growth between 5% and 10%. This service growth includes restoration of all high school and middle schools previously served, implementation of our riverfront to waterfront service with the introduction of inductive charging at Eclipse Mill Park. 2025 shows us an introduction of a micro-transit pilot program. This will be contingent upon grant funding, and the new program will be implemented to evaluate the feasibility of using shuttles for service delivery. Microtransit is often used as a connector piece to longer-running routes. Finish off there, 2026 and 27 will continue to improve our efficiencies, and major projects will include the electrification of our fleet and evolving technology. For our projects and facilities, we have a number of projects going on. Everett Station will focus on safety updates over the next several years, with visibility and ADA accessibility being amongst the main improvements. Everett Station will begin the introduction of electronic wayfinding signage. This technology component will aid visitors to Everett Station in finding their destination as well as departure times with ease. It's worthwhile to note that many of these projects will span several months and times and into the following year. 2022, we have a elevator rehab project going on within the station, and we will begin our Great Hall renovation. There will be updates to lighting, benches, common areas, and ADA enhancements. 2023, we will continue our electric wayfinding, produce updates to our electronic fire alarm control panels, and 2025, we will be looking at sidewalk rehabilitation, repairing cracks and sections that have lifted, as well as repair and replace granite walkways that are failing. 2027, we will produce lighting upgrades for the Great Hall and Conference Center. Projects and facilities in 2022 through 2027 continued at our operations base. Those projects include the expansion of Everett Transit's electric fleet infrastructure, allowing Everett to fulfill its goal of operating an all-electric fleet by 2028. Major renovations include the installation of 4 additional cabinet chargers in 2022. Years 23 through 24 will produce inductive charging. The introduction of inductive charging to Everett Transit's infrastructure will change the way the public transportation is operated in Everett. Inductive charging allows buses the ability to stay on the streets from the first run of the day to the last run of the night. We are working to introduce inductive charging into our infrastructure and then expand with a number of additional chargers. Passenger amenity updates will include and aid Everett Transit facilities and maintenance staff in updating or replacing necessary shelter components. The immediate focus will be placed on the replacement of broken or missing shelter glass with sturdier, cleaner wire mesh. This change will be implemented throughout the city to create a cohesive and maintainable image. Everett Transit's financial picture looks bright. This is made possible by the infusion of pandemic federal funding support, including the Move Ahead Washington funding. A portion of these funds can be used for transformative projects. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions.
Questions? Oops, sorry, do we have any council member questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Buckley.
Okay. So what are they? In the passenger trips, expenditures, fuel consumed, do any of those numbers have to do with, okay, so passenger trips, 5% decrease from 2020. Is that sort of because the very beginning of 2020, everybody was still riding full force, and then we weren't, and now it's just slowly growing back?
Going back. Are you referring, if I'm looking at my slide, we're looking at the passenger trips for paratransit operations?
Yeah, that's paratransit.
Yeah, so what that looks like, in 2021, we were still coming out of the pandemic, and so we were initially still providing single trips on paratransit for the protection of both our passengers and drivers.
So,
that's
yeah, I
where
just
that's
wanna,
from. Yeah,
kinda wanted to note that, cause it's pretty
Sure.
incredible, but also, there still was also the, in fixed route operation, so the same type of thing, cause they just,
yes, and we're still coming back around on our ridership numbers, so there's continuing to build.
so I was at the TAC meeting.
Yes, that's right. So you've heard this twice.
Yeah, and I like it, but there's new stuff all the time, and of course, trying, there have been a couple of routes added on, or there has been some great improvement, is what I remember, but it didn't seem to all come through in this particular
Presentation.
slideshow.
Sure,
So
sure.
do we
So-
get to hear that at some point?
You know, Tom, I believe we added approximately 10,000 hours of service
Yeah.
in March of 2022. So that has greatly, what we did with that was by increasing efficiencies within the routes, not by adding routes, but increasing efficiencies. And I believe next, let's see, the 14th presentation should indicate the March 2023 service change and additional service that's going to be added during that
Okay,
time.
thanks. I
You
just-
bet.
I wanted all of that good stuff to be said sooner
I'll
than
remember that
later.
for next year. Good point.
And then the CRRSAA funding, is
Mm-hmm.
that, and that's grants, $8.9 million. Is that part of the Move Ahead grant? Or is
No,
that
that was
completely
actually
separate?
federal funding. And so there were 3 packages that came through the Federal Transit Administration for pandemic relief funding. The first round was CARES funding, second being CRISA, and the third, I'm completely losing what the name of that was.
Well, you know, you're in good company.
It was good money.
And so the move ahead dollars are going to be paid to Everett Transit through the next like 18 years?
16 years.
16
So that is
years.
state funding, and by Everett Transit jumping on board to provide free fare to youth through 18, that nets us approximately $2 million every year for the next 16 years. And that puts a huge infusion into our budget and really helps our budget shine bright.
Okay, I'm just putting that out there, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab?
Yes, I'll be quick. I have a few. Under your fixed route operations, part of the expenditures is the SWIFT program. Could you give a quick synopsis of what that's for?
Actually, I will defer to Tom
Okay.
for the.
Oh, didn't recognize you.
Didn't recognize me behind
Thank you.
that one. There we go. Tom Hinkson, Everett Transit. So the SWIFT is our agreement with Community Transit, and essentially we pay 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% of our sales tax in quarterly payments. And it's just a straight payment based on how much sales tax we receive. So we actually received quite a lot of sales tax in the last year. So 1.9 of that went to Community Transit. And that supports the SWIFT program that we partnered with now. This is its 12th year.
Okay, so I mean, $1.9 million is a lot, so what do we get besides, what's the SWIFT program provided? Maybe this is part of another meeting. I don't have a clear, I see the buses, but I don't have a really clear, how many routes per, this is under fixed route.
So SWIFT is a single route.
Single route, okay.
It runs from Everett Station to the county line at Aurora Village. And basically, it's every 10 minutes.
Okay.
And there are many features of SWIFT,
Right.
but one of the features is that it's fast and it's reliable.
Okay, so that pays for that route.
Yes, well, it pays for, in reality, it pays for about 40% of the operating costs. So we actually get a very good deal.
Okay, that was kind of what my
Yeah.
next question was, great.
We couldn't replicate it for that price.
Okay, good, thank you, that was where I was headed. Thank you. And then I had a question about the Everett Station, about the occupancy rate. Do you know the percentage?
I knew it
Well,
pre-pandemic.
We have some space on the 4th floor
Okay,
that could be leased, and not a lot, this may be like 5,000 square feet. The primary renter there is WorkSource Workforce, a state agency. The Bezos Academy is moving in. They're going to take the rest of the 1st floor. And then, of course, our own transit administration offices, so we pay ourselves to rent from the station. We take half of the 2nd floor.
okay, just a couple more. And then I had a question about your operational reserve transfers. I see that's part of your dollar amount on your financial picture. Does that include the capital reserves also?
No, that's separate. When we added the 10% service, we were uncertain what the finances were going to look like, and we wanted to be sure that we could sustain that service. So we just set aside $5 million into like a side fund for operations. So if for some reason the sales tax dumped, we would be able to secure that service.
And the revenues for the capital expenditures, that's coming out of the same, is it coming out of a different pot of dollars, a different allocation? Because the way you have it presented, it looks like it comes from a different revenue source. Or is it all the same?
Yeah, most of our capital dollars come from grants.
Okay,
So we do keep that separate, and then we provide the local match for those grants. So that's why there's a difference between the money in and money out.
all right, yeah, thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Councilmember Tui?
Well, that was my question also about the Everett Station and the vacancies that are there. So basically, you're looking to just fill a 5,000 square foot space if you were to be fully leased up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ryan?
Great. Since Tom's here, I mean, yeah, just had a couple of quick questions and then, so I was excited to see the bus route open up for bus route 6 down to the waterfront this summer. So I was hoping to hear more about coming to that decision and if there's any other plans for those types of seasonal routes opening up.
Well, thank you. That was a very quickly put together program. And we're certainly interested in trying those things. The way we set it up is that we focused on when we hoped people would be around. And the highest ridership actually was on Thursdays, and it hasn't been that fantastic for Friday and Saturday, but we know that it's new. We also know that there's more things being built on the waterfront, and so we certainly will consider doing it, especially since we make it discrete, just a few hours, and not tie it into a 5-day or a 7-day a week schedule. So.
Thank you. And just to follow up too on when the meeting, gosh, probably 2-3 months, COVID time, who knows when it was, when we approved the new fare structure, and there was the follow-up for proposals to expand access that I had made for increasing the age and for students with the ID, for veterans, and to reduce free fare for seniors and disabled. So I was hoping you could share with folks what the recommendation was for that.
Sure. So, well, first of all, the youth fair is implemented. Mm-hmm. And as Melinda had mentioned, the reduction in the Orca Lift program, which is a regional program, we will go from $1.50 to $1 starting tomorrow. And we've been working with King County Metro and Sound Transit on the next level, which council approved for us to do, which would be a annual subsidized pass for people who meet a certain income level. And so we're still working through that. We hope to get that implemented before the end of the year, or at least early next year. There have to be enough partners to do it all at one time so we don't confuse the region. We have people who use our systems throughout. So we want to make sure that we're consistent with that. And our focus then, my recommendation is that because we will have these income-based programs, that if there are people who find that regardless of whether they're a veteran or a student or an older student or whatever else, they will likely qualify in some kind of financial program. And so we're putting the help where people really need it instead of just doing a blanket thing. So that was our thoughts.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm so hopeful to see the youth age increase to 21. I think that'd be a great way to just establish ridership for younger folks to be lifetime riders. The last question's for Melinda. I'm so excited for the electrification of the fleet. I think that's going to be amazing for just the environment and to set an example for just the whole region to follow. And I was wondering if there's any partnership opportunities with SNOPUD or some other local folks that do energy production to help with the electrification, or the pads that are being driven on, or solar can be incorporated at some point, or just partnerships in general?
That's a great question. Yes, we do have an active partnership with PUD on 2 projects currently, one being the Eclipse Mill Park, which is our first inductive charger site. Mm-hmm. So we partnered with them, and they secured a grant through the Department of Commerce to make that happen. So they are helping us with the installation of that inductive charging. And the second program is a Genie Program. And what that is, we had a recent write-up in the paper. I don't know if you all saw that, but what that is it's about taking batteries from buses that have passed their useful life for the use on the bus, but still have battery power left in them. So we are currently doing an experimental project with PUD and Genie on our property, where we are storing batteries donated from King County Metro, hooking those into our cabinet charging system so that it puts that power back into the power system, if you will. And that will help also to reduce the pull on the grid. When we want to charge, we'll have opportunities to charge off-peak time by using that process.
Fascinating, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? I just had a couple questions. I'm trying to look at your fixed route operations from 2021, and so you had reduced number of passenger trips, your expenses went down by 1.5%, but your fuel consumption went up by 4.5%. Why is that?
I believe that because we were coming out of 2020 and going into 2021 and ridership was still low at the beginning of 2021, we were still having the space. There was a social distancing phase. So in other words, our fixed route buses, rather than carrying 30 passengers, we were limiting to 14. So we had more buses carrying the people to accommodate social distancing.
So you increased number of buses that were traveling on routes?
Yes, which increased the fuel, but provided more social distancing space.
Got it, okay. I didn't realize we
for
had.
the customers.
I didn't realize we had a increase in the number of trips that we were sending around. Okay, that makes sense. I think that was all the questions I had, yeah. So this is a public hearing, and we do have one person signed up to speak. Is that correct, Angie?
That is correct.
Okay. Well,
Joe, okay, unmuted yourself, and please give your full name and residence for the record, and please remember to limit your time to 3 minutes, and at 2 minutes, 30 seconds, I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you, Angela. Joe Kunstler here. It's a great honor to address the Everett City Council again. I'm a huge supporter of Everett Transit. As you can see behind me, I'm a regular Everett Transit rider. I especially use your service to connect to shopping opportunities, to buy gifts for pals and VIPs, and check out Payne Field, or to see Top Gun Maverick for the first time at Everett Mall. Quarterly, just as inappropriate for a light rail station as put to some detour around Payne Field. Use Highway 99. It was even better taking one for electric buses to see Top Gun Maverick. In fact, that's the way to go see Top Gun Maverick, is take transit. Because it's fast, it's efficient, and it's friendly. But listen, some of us are going to have a really tough mission ahead to bring you guys into the community transit family. I'm happy Tom Hinkson and obviously Mayor Franklin are with us. But when Everett Transit's Route 18, as you see behind me, comes within a minute of and normally misses the Sounder North, and when there is a need to meet light rail with 200,000 hours of service, when you only plan 140,000 hours, you need to fund the 60,000 hours and put those hours in your regional network. And that's the responsibility of politics. And I hope that there is a focus in the years ahead towards growth with consolidation that allows Everett Transit to keep its brand and to keep some local influence over routing and all of those nice things. It's just the need to meet light rail requires 200,000 service hours, and you're only planning up to 140,000. And I hope that focuses the mind. And I want to thank you for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. President Stolzheifer, that's all I have online.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Councilmember Schwab, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. This is just to close the public hearing. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
President Stolzheifer.
Yes. Now I'll read item 11, and that is Council Bill 2207-35, adopt an ordinance amending the Everett Municipal Code to bring it into conformity with recently enacted changes in state housing laws, amending EMC chapters 15.02 land use and project review procedures, 19.04 definitions, 19.05 uses, 19.08 residential uses and development standards, 19.13 specific use standards, and 19.34 parking, loading, and access requirements. It is stated that the third and final reading on this item will be on September 7th. And we're going to take the second item, item 12, as well at the same time because they are related. It's Council Bill 2207-36, adopt an ordinance amending the Everett Municipal Code to bring it into conformity with recently enacted changes in state housing laws related to removing limits on number of residents in a dwelling, amending EMC chapters 19.04 definitions, 19.05 uses, 19.08 residential uses and development standards, 19.34 parking, loading, and access requirements. Again, the third and final reading is scheduled for September 7th. And I will now open the public hearing, and we have Yorick Stevens Watch here to help us understand what we're looking at.
Thank you, Council President Stonecipher. Good evening, Council. I'm Yorick Stevens Watch, Planning Director. As Council President Stonecipher overviewed, we have two ordinances before you. Both of these were triggered by changes to state law adopted by the state legislature a couple of years ago. I'll do a very brief recap and then cover a couple of updates for you. The first one is addressing homeless shelters and housing. It is revising definitions. We took the opportunity after the state law change initiated the need for this ordinance. We took the opportunity to go through the code sections that deal with it, revise and clarify the definitions, split up temporary shelter, emergency housing into 4 new definitions: emergency housing, emergency shelter outdoor, emergency shelter indoor, and temporary extreme weather shelter. Also made a minor change to social services in the terms of the definition and where it is located in our use matrix. We suggest streamlining the approval process for these facilities in a number of zones from a conditional use permit to an administrative use permit. That changes the decision-making body from the hearing examiner to an administrative decision of the planning director. The appeal route would remain to the hearing examiner, so if anybody thought the decision was made in error, there would still be the opportunity to seek relief from the hearing examiner. Minor changes in where these are allowed. Shelters would now be allowed in the light industrial zone where they had previously been prohibited. That is one of the requirements of the bill that came out of the state legislature. And then also to allow small-scale supportive housing in the RS, R1, R2, and UR3 zones. Again, that was triggered by the provisions in House Bill 1220. 3 updates for you. I handed out a series of maps on recommendation from the council. That was a good idea, and I think we'll make a habit of that whenever we're dealing with some of this geographic information. Do note, so there's 4 different maps, one for emergency housing and shelter where they are allowed and where they're not, one for outdoor emergency shelter, one for temporary extreme weather shelter, and then one for social services. They're draft maps. The social services one in particular is extremely complicated. The use matrix has different rules for each of the zones, and it overlaps between the zones and street designations, which are one of the maps in there. So for instance, if you are on a TOD designated street in the mixed urban zone within downtown, it's prohibited. Or on the ground floor, but in other combinations of zones and street designations are different. So it's really complicated, but I think it gives kind of a general idea, and if you were to look at that and compare it to the words in the ordinance, you would get a pretty good sense of where this is. Note that there are not major changes from existing regulations that are proposed in where these are allowed. The second update, again from council questions and comments earlier in the process here, we took a look at the managing agency responsibilities around safety. So we're not taking action today, so we will be forwarding to you 2 changes to the ordinance for your final action. So I will list them like the list of changes that is included in your packet today. There were questions about the seeking of identification and warrant checks as a condition of entry to shelters. And that sent us to go take a closer look at that language. We had not proposed changing that language. It was all existing, although we were expanding its applicability from outdoor shelters like pallets and tents and safe parking areas into the indoor shelters. So we worked with community development and police department to revise, and with the general theme of more flexibility while maintaining the focus on safety. So we've done that in a couple of others. The code of conduct, I think I mentioned in our council meeting a week ago. The code of conduct in existing code has a specific list that goes down even to the hours of quiet time and smoking and things like that. Different facilities with different populations in different areas are gonna call for different codes of conduct. Same thing with management plans. And so we're taking the general tactic of backing up a little bit and stating what we want out of the management plan rather than exactly what needs to go into it. And then we'll work with the managing agencies of each individual facility as it's proposed to make sure that we have those dialed in correctly. I won't read the whole thing, but in general, we will be proposing that the managing agency shall maintain an admission process that adequately provides for the safety and welfare of residents of the facility and the community. And then the managing agency shall immediately contact the Everett Police Department if, in the opinion of staff or security, a person is a potential threat to the safety of residents of the facility or the community. So that sort of thing, with leaving the details to discussions between staff and the managing agency. So I'll give you the exact language to think about with that, and we can discuss it at the final reading and action. The second one is a mysterious and embarrassing one. Emergency shelter outdoors. This is on page 11 of, this is in Exhibit 2. Mixed urban zone and the light industrial zone were always had an A in those cells. I don't know where it went. The Planning Commission materials had an A in those cells, and that's for an administrative use permit. The Planning Commission recommendation via resolution had it in it. The slides and the memo to the council had it in it. It must have been during formatting or something that tumbled out of there, but that was never an intent, and I think everything else that was surrounding it was always intended to maintain outdoor emergency shelters as permissible via administrative use permit. So we will be proposing to put that back into the ordinance. Those are the two changes from what you've got before you today and an overview.
Thank you. And now we'll see, Angie, do we have anyone signed up for public comment on this on these items?
We do not.
Thank you. And so we will go, let's see, we will go, do we have to close the public hearing here? Let me read my notes. Oh, that's right. We're going to keep the public hearing open on these items so that we can continue to take public comment on the items and continue to deliberate, but we'll go down the council roll now and take comments from council members. I'm going to start with council member Zarlingo.
Just to note that we raised a couple of questions last week and have been working on that since that to resolve those, and we'll work on that before next week, I think, when we act on this.
Council President,
Yes.
John Seifert, can I clarify? The intent is to continue to have the public hearing open for 2 more weeks. And so third and final reading will actually be listed next week and on the 14th. And it would be the 14th when council would be asked to take action. And that was to allow adequate time to kind of weed through some of the challenges or questions that you had.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Buckley.
These maps are great, thank you. I know that they are in draft form, but very helpful. And I know that previously I had the question of what is an emergency? You know, I just couldn't grasp it, and I have now, so I would like to share with the public what I figured out. Emergency in these, for emergency shelter, indoor and outdoor, other people are experiencing emergencies. It's a homelessness. And then the temporary extreme weather shelter is something that I was personally thinking of as an emergency and personally thinking of the pandemic when we needed to do something right now, but it wasn't weather related. And so I'm wondering if, I know we get pandemics once every like 100 years, but considering everything that's happening, maybe we'll get them every 20 years. Who knows? If and when an extreme instance happens that isn't weather related, like, so if we have to buckle down and stay sheltered, but we have all of these unsheltered people, where can that fit into this ordinance? Because in 2021, I don't know, when COVID was happening, I was looking at the temporary shelter ordinance, which changed during our last during our housing, it changed. And now we're changing it just slightly again. So I'm trying to figure out where something very quickly could get set up, even, if we have a pandemic again where everybody has to be all alone. It seems, I don't know if there's anywhere in our entire code that has that information in it, or if it needs to be written.
Can I just say, I think one of the things that we have is my ability to declare an emergency, which frees up our ability to kind of ignore some of our codes and zoning issues. So when there's a disaster or something, the mayor has the authority to declare an emergency, as we did. That allowed us to do purchasing and take other actions without the typical approval processes that we would take. And so I'll allow York to speak, but I think that allows some flexibility. We can't predict everything that will happen, but we do have some authority as a local government to take actions outside of our typical regulations.
Sorry, you may have something more to add to that. And I do appreciate emergency declarations. In my experience, even the emergency declaration didn't account for a certain permitting process to be quickened. So I just need to say these things. Do you know? Yes?
I'd just add that you also have the authority to adopt an emergency ordinance that does not require the 3 readings and that goes into effect immediately if you have a desire to alter a permit process in the.
And that is with 2/3 of the council?
Requires a supermajority. 4,
Yes,
yeah.
that
Exactly,
is
5
the
of the 7.
problem. 4.
Hopefully, if it's a real emergency, most council members would see that and agree with you.
Okay, thank you. That is probably the best answer that anybody's going to give me. And I appreciate it very much. Yeah, that's what I needed to get out and figure out. So thank you. That's all for now.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
Yeah, thank you for pulling a couple of those ordinance and giving us some more time to digest the information. Really appreciate your support on that. Thank you.
Vice President Tui.
I don't have anything else to ask, but thank you for giving us 2 extra weeks. I think that's needed. Thank you.
Councilmember Ryan.
Might be semantics, but, so the first one is allowing for, the sheltering to happen in light industrial, but the map shows light industrial 1 and 2, so is it both of those?
It is, yeah.
Okay, great, that's all, thanks.
Thank you, and I have no additional questions. My notes here say that we would take a motion to table, but I'm going to check with the city attorney to see, can we just leave the public hearing open without any?
That's correct.
Yes, okay. So this public hearing will remain open until September 14th, when we are expected to take final action. We'll now move to our action agenda, and item 13 is Council Bill 2207-37, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance creating a special construction project entitled Clark Park gazebo renovation Fund 354, Program 078, to accumulate costs for the project in the amount of $30,000. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions on this item before I take the roll? Seeing none, clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
President Jones Cipher.
Yes. Item 14, Council Bill 2207-38, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance creating a special construction project entitled Forest Park Spray Pad Recirculation Project, Fund 354, Program 079, to accumulate costs for the projects in the amount of $60,000. Do I hear a motion?
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Vogely seconds.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments before we call the roll?
Oh, just a comment. Yay, that's all.
Thank you. And clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
President Jones Cipher.
Yes. Item 15, Council Bill 2207-39, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Lower Riverfront Park Renovation, Fund 354, Program 080, to accumulate project costs in the amount of $250,000. Do I have a motion?
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Vogely seconds.
Thank you. We have motion and a second. Any questions or comments before we call the roll? Please take the roll.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
President Jones Cipher.
Yes. Item 16, authorize the mayor to sign the release and settlement agreement with Thompson Metal Fabrication in substantially the form provided. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments before we? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
President Jones Cipher.
Yes, with no further business and no executive session, we are now adjourned.